Okay, you've got that. It applies. You can see how it applies to things like class struggle. Society has opposed classes, opposed forces, and then the development occurs through that. But maybe it doesn't apply to things, to nature, to objects, and so on. And I used to take that view, but then I found I was trying to explain dialectics to people. I found that actually you needed to think about how it applied to things in order to fully understand how it applies to the class struggle. Now, let me put it this way. We take a fixed object, right? Mount Everest, if you like. It's obvious that from the point of view of the lives of individual human beings, a mountain like Mount Everest is a fixed object and it's going to be roughly the same. But we also know, don't we, that Mount Everest is continually changing, right? And that ultimately, Mount Everest, like the Himalayas as a whole, was a result of historical processes in which tectonic plates, continents collided with one another, forced up into the sky, and ultimately it can be eroded and disappear. Long time scale. But even something as fixed as that is actually in the process of being created and of being destroyed. Now, same is true of a table. What dialectics says here is that, I'll try and explain this clearly, that if we, instead of thinking we have separate things that move and change, but that every separate thing, the table, right, is actually a moment in, a frozen moment in, or a period of continuity within a process, a bigger process of change. Right? Put it very crudely, if you like, a wooden table is a moment between a tree and dust. Right? It was a tree, the tree grew, so we made it into a table, it eventually disintegrates. Now, when you think of it that way round, everything is a fixed moment in a process of change. And in the, on the sheet in front of you, you'll see that Lenin stresses here, he's talking about this, that key idea of dialectics, the last sentence, he talks about the unity of opposites, etc. I'll come back to that, but that's conditional, temporary, transitory, relative. The struggle of mutually exclusive opposites is absolute, just as development and motion are absolute. So that actually the fixed thing is temporary, the other is more fundamental. And from this we get some of the key concepts of dialectics, of thinking the process of change. First one, used there by Lenin, is the notion of the unity of opposites, or sometimes the phrase the identity of opposites. Every particular process, every society, every institution, and everything is actually contains opposing forces, forces that bring it into being, forces that negate it or lead to its disappearance. And they are in contradiction with one another, and they are moving. That's how it changes and develops. But at any point, any particular state of affairs involves these opposite forces being, as they were, an unstable, impermanent balance or unity of those opposed forces. And therefore everything contains the sources of its own eventual disappearance. And Marx, going back to the quote here, he says that dialectics became the fashion in Germany. This is the third paragraph down. Because it seemed to transfigure and glorify the existing state of affairs. That's because Hegel used dialectics to say everything had culminated in the German state. He said in its rational form, his form, it is a scandal and abomination to bourgeoisdom and its doctrinaire professors, because it includes in its comprehension and affirmative recognition of the existing state of things. It doesn't mean its support for the political system, it's understanding of how that came into being. It includes at the same time also the recognition of the negation of that state, of its inevitable breaking up, because it regards every historically developed social form as in fluid movement, and therefore takes into account its transient nature not less than its momentary existence. So it